Hi, this is Daniel Odio with PointAbout. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to tell you a bit about what PointAbout does and specifically why we think it's exciting, especially as compared to your other alternatives. Now, I'm speaking to you, a company, not to you, the end user. So if you're just an end user that's using a phone, this video is not going to be right for you. But if you're a company with a brand and you're interested in getting involved in what's called LBS, location-based services, and especially mobile, or you're thinking about extending your brand to the cell phone, this would be a great tutorial for you. So let's start with what should be pretty familiar to you if you have a smartphone, specifically an iPhone, but any smartphone. You know, there's different icons on the phone for various types of functionality, whether it's weather, stocks, etc. So imagine if you could have a private labeled icon on your customer's phone. So we'll say Acme for ease of branding here, but of course replace that with your brand. The idea being that you could provide some type of service to your customers that would be A, accessible to them on the cell phone, and B, it would be location aware. And the reason that's a big deal is because the cell phone knows where it is. Let me tell you what I mean about that. So don't forget about this. The idea, what PointAbout's going to enable, is it's going to enable you to private label an icon on multiple handsets. We'll get back to that, but first let's talk about why this is so revolutionary. So let me clear out some space for us here, and let's just talk about the internet. Now let's say that Acme has a website, and this website's been around for a while. Now, the genesis of the web was that a user in, let's say, San Francisco would see pretty much the same site as a user in Virginia. So California versus Virginia, right? The site looks pretty much the same. It's a standard. It's open 24 hours a day. These are all really great things when the web was young, 10 years ago, for example. But if that user is on their phone, I'll just draw a phone here. So we have two users that are on their phones. They're probably going to be using that website in much different ways on their phones. Like, let's say, for example, Acme has retail stores. Well, what if Acme, the website, could localize the content that a user sees to where the user is standing? So this cell phone user in San Francisco might see a specific version of the San Francisco store that might have inventory for that specific store. It might have a chat feature so that instead of somebody having to wander around the store, they can ask via their cell phone where something is located in the store. When this website can talk to this user on their cell phone, whether they're near the store or in the store, it becomes very powerful because you as Acme have already invested a lot of money in web infrastructure, most likely, and why not be able to localize that down to the individual user? So what PointAbout's doing is it's opening up a channel of communication between you, the company, and your users who are on their phones. And you can have specific conversations with them through your website that's localized to their location. Right? Now, here's the problem. How does a site know where the user is? This gets back to the icon that I drew on the previous screen, and that's the power of the icon, right? If a user's carrying your brand around with them on their phone home screen, wherever they go, that's very powerful. The problem for you as a company is if you want to get the user to install an application on their phone, you're going to have to make that application for every different type of phone. So whether it's the iPhone, whether it's BlackBerry, whether it's an HTC phone, whether it's a Nokia phone. I mean, there's just tons of different handsets, and there's also a lot of different carriers. So each carrier is going to be a little bit different. That's a lot of work. You probably don't want to be in the business of making an application for every different type of phone that can then tell your website where the phone's located. So PointAbout is going to basically bridge this gap. We take on the messy process of working with the carriers, working with different types of phones, getting location data from different means. There's GPS, there's cell ID, There's all sorts of different ways for that phone to know where it's located. There's Wi-Fi triangulation. I don't care if it's smoke signals. PointAbout's job is to figure out where that user is located and what kind of phone they're using, what kind of handset they're using, what kind of carrier they're on, and then make sure that we can provide you with a private labeled thin client, is what we call it, an application that is just going to launch to your website. So what we're basically doing is we're saying, let us handle the messy part. You can focus on what you do best, which is creating really good web content. We're going to pass you location information from these users. So this user is going to be able to tell your website, hey, I'm in San Francisco, I'm standing on the pier in San Francisco. Then you, as the brand with your web infrastructure, can decide what you want to serve up to that client. There's a lot of more powerful things that we can do as well. Analytics, APIs, widgets, all sorts of things where we can create a two-way conversation between the brand and the cell phone user. It's pretty exciting stuff, but suffice it to say that we can very easily enable you, the brand, to A, focus on what you do best, which is making a really good web infrastructure, B, allow you to localize that web infrastructure to where the user is, and C, we make a private labeled version of a little thin client application that's branded with your brand that you then promote out to your entire user base, no matter what type of phones they're on. They install that thin client, it launches your website and tells the site where it's located. So just think about what the possibilities and what you can do with that. I'd love to know what you could in fact do with that, because you're going to be a lot better than we will at figuring out what those opportunities are. So I'll give you my contact information. It's Daniel Odio, and my cell number is 202-250-3846. Again, Daniel Odio, 202-250-3846. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.